Oh man, it's good to be back.
And now, Alexander Volkanovski!
Not long ago, a fight between a true legend of the featherweight and lightweight divisions took place. Alexander Volkanovski stepped into the cage against the man fans swore would run through him like a freight train. We're talking about the Brazilian sensation, Diego Lopes. But this time, the Diego hype train went off the rails. Volkanovski didn't just beat Lopes, he demolished him. He exposed Diego in front of the entire MMA world and made it crystal clear. Diego Lopes was never elite, and we already know what's happening. You're foaming at the mouth, ready to defend your golden boy in the comments. But hold on, I've got the facts to back it up. So do yourself a favor and watch this video to the end, because by the time we're done, your opinion might not survive the damage. Let's start with the main argument every Diego fanboy loves to scream. Let's call it what it is. It was a close fight. He dropped Volkanovski twice and took at least 2 rounds. Just look at Diego's win streak before that. The guy's on fire. He'll definitely come back. Really? Maybe we watch different fights? Because in a civilized society, proper gentlemen agree. Volk was robbed of one of the cleanest 50-45s you could possibly earn in a title bout. But we'll get to that a bit later. Before that, let's actually break down Lopes's UFC run, fight by fight, and see if this fire is actually just a cheap sparkler. Diego's debut was against the undefeated powerhouse Movsar Evloev. And yes, he put up a fight, but at the end of 3 rounds, he lost. And what happened next? Diego fights 5 times in under a year and wins all 5. Sounds impressive on paper? Sounds like a monster on the rise? But wait until we break down each opponent. First up, Gavin Tucker, a veteran fighter, but one who never faced real elite opposition. Before facing Lopes, Tucker's biggest opponent was Dan Ige, who knocked him out so bad it looked like a retirement gift. So ask yourself, is beating Gavin Tucker some kind of earth-shattering achievement? Of course not. Next, Pat Sabatini, a guy who'd already been exposed several times even before fighting Lopes. He was never considered as a top fighter, even though Lopes completely dominated him. This win is nowhere near the level of a career-defining moment. This is filler. This is padding. Shout out to Michael Page. Then came Sodiq Yusuff. The Nigerian had faced 2 decent opponents in his career, Arnold Allen and Edson Barboza. Guess what? He lost to both. Arnold outclassed him, and Barboza almost finished him despite being way past his prime. Edson's prime ended so long ago, some of today's top fighters weren't even pro fighters yet. And you want to celebrate a win over that guy? Come on. Now we get to the 2 so-called crown jewels of the Brazilian career, the ones fans love to brag about. Let's tear those apart too. First, Dan Ige, a respectable, very solid mid-level fighter for sure. But this fight was far from the dominance Diego had been showing before. Both fighters took the fight on short notice, respect to them for that. But this time, Diego's weaknesses were exposed. Turns out Diego can't even breathe properly after the first round. And I know what's coming. The blind fanboys will be rushing to the comments to type something like, Lopes had to cut weight 3 times prior to this fight. There's no way it didn't affect his performance. And under normal circumstances, I'd agree with you 100%. But here's the thing. Diego fought exactly like he always has. Literally, nothing changed. I didn't see any decline in his speed, no drop in his striking power. He fought Dan just like he fought in every other fight and everyone that's coming. The only difference here was that Dan wasn't backing off in the stand-up, and when Diego couldn't deal with it, he quickly gasped for air and ran out of steam. Ige survived the early onslaught. He fought back and ended the bout on his own terms. This wasn't a statement win. This was a wake-up call. And finally, Brian Ortega. The big one, right? The win that proved Diego was the real deal. Wrong. Don't be fooled by the fact that Ortega was ranked third in the division at the time of their fight. Just like Diego, Bryan completely fell apart the moment he started facing real elite competition. Holloway and Volkanovski wiped the floor with him. And don't even start with that guillotine attempt on Alex. It was a cool moment, sure, but that's all it was. Now don't get it twisted. Ortega, unlike Diego, 100% deserves to be called an elite fighter. But let's be honest, you'd struggle to find a more perfect matchup for Lopes than Ortega. T-City is a world-class grappler. We're not denying that for a second, but his striking? Are you serious? We all know how it goes in these grappler vs grappler matchups inside the octagon. That's right, they end up fighting on the feet because neither guy wants to test the other on the ground. And here's the truth. Even after going through 2 title fights, Ortega never bothered to learn how to defend himself on the feet. His entire career, he's been eating shots for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, just banking on his ground game to bail him out. But guess what? Against Diego, the fight never even went to the ground. And that's not because Diego has some kind of next-level stand-up. Let's keep it real. He doesn't have anything besides the most basic combos you learn in your first year at an MMA gym. You want proof? Go rewatch the Dan Ige fight. Even Dan, a guy known more for his durability than his striking defense, was able to block and counter Diego's every predictable move, because unlike Ortega, the Hawaiian actually has some kind of striking defense. And that's why the Diego hype is built on a foundation of sand. Fighters like Ortega made him look good, but the second someone bites back, it's game over. The fight that ended the delusion. Alexander Volkanovski. I wish there was more to break down in this fight, but honestly, there's just nothing to analyze. Diego naively believed that what he'd shown in his previous fights would somehow be enough to deal with the greatest featherweight of all time. But Alex showed the one-dimensional Lopes that there are levels to this game. Across 25 minutes, Diego had just 2 moments. A knockdown in the second round, and another in the fourth. The second round knockdown, a clean shot, no excuses, fair play. The fourth? Lopes barely clipped Volk's eye with the edge of his glove, and that quick disruption in vision gave him a brief opening. But outside of that, it was a masterclass. Pure, methodical dominance from Alex. In every round, in every department from start to finish. Now let's talk about Diego himself, not just his opponents, but his own limitations. First off, lack of strategy and poor adaptability. Modern MMA is not just about being strong or throwing bombs. It's about having a plan, studying your opponent, exploiting weaknesses, and hiding your own. Diego doesn't do that. He rushes in like a headless chicken, and when things go sideways, he panics. Top-level fighters like Dominic Cruz or Demetrius Johnson has shown that MMA is not only about skills. They adapt. They read their opponents. They make adjustments mid-fight. Diego, he just goes all in and prays it works. Just as Sean Strickland, he fights the same way every fight. That's not elite. That's reckless. Second, lack of mental toughness. Mental fortitude is crucial in the MMA. Fighters face pain, fear, and immense pressure, and Diego crumbles under it. When the finish doesn't come early, he fades. When things get tough, he hesitates. The minute his highlight moment passes, he becomes ordinary. Third, a severe lack of versatility. MMA in 2025 is ruled by hybrids. Wrestlers who can strike, strikers who can grapple. Guys like Khabib and GSP dominated because they could do everything, but Diego can't. He's wild, aggressive, and flashy, no doubt about it. But if his plan A fails, he has nothing to offer. The Brazilian can't adjust because he has not enough skills to do that. Yevloev once showed that, and Volk completely exposed it after. His striking looks good until someone times him. His grappling works until someone pressures him. He's too predictable, too one-dimensional. And guess what? Top fighters are already starting to figure that out. If he keeps facing real competition, he'll keep getting exposed one by one until the fans finally wake up. Let's wrap this up. In his UFC run, Diego has been many things. A crowd pleaser, a wild card, a guy Dana White loves because he'll fight anyone, anytime. But a championship-level fighter? Hell no. The matchmakers wanted this to happen. Nothing more, nothing less. They've always loved fighters who will fight anyone. Alex Pereira is not going to deny that. But let's talk about this from a purely sporting perspective. Do you really believe that Diego, who was beaten by Yevloev, got a title shot before him just because he beat a couple of cans is fair game? Sure, Movsar has his flaws, like refusing to fight guys below him in the rankings. And let's not forget, no finishes in the UFC, that's a fact. But let's take a quick look at Diego's record again. He fought guys like Tucker and Sabatini, neither of whom were ranked. Then he knocked out Yusuf and jumped to being ranked number 13 in the rankings, and immediately got a shot at the ranked number 3 Ortega. Meanwhile, Movsar had to fight once a year because even unranked fighters didn't want to step in the octagon with him. What about giving Yevloev not a debutant like Aaron Pico, but a real test like Brian Ortega, who was ranked 3rd at the time? The UFC didn't care about that. So Diego, being a company guy, got his title shot, and only because of that, not because he was better than Movsar as a fighter.